You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this, a look at what's going on with the IBF Featherweight champion Nina Meinke. Fans react to Meinke's emergency spinal surgery. Fans have reacted to the news that IBF Featherweight champion Nina Meinke is recovering after undergoing an emergency spinal surgery. The surgery was done to address a severe nerve compression that nearly costed her the use of her right leg. After months of intense back and leg pain, doctors discovered that a nerve in her spine was dangerously compressed, putting her mobility at serious risk. Meinke was told she was just days away from losing all feeling in the leg, prompting immediate surgical intervention. The operation relieved some of the pressure and pain, but specialists have given her just a 20% chance of making a full recovery. Still, Meinke has already regained some movement as she remains positive. I know many people were wondering why I suddenly disappeared from the public eye. The truth is, I was enduring the worst pain of my life. It was a total shock to find out I needed immediate surgery. With just a 20% chance for a full recovery, I was right in the middle of planning a major new project and talking about future fights when I got the news. Right now, my only goal is to take it step by step, getting back to life and hopefully back into the ring. For now, it's all about recovery. The fight game can wait, Meinke said. Outside of her medical struggles, Meinke has achieved many milestones. She won the vacant IBF title by defeating Daniela Bermudez via a majority decision last year. She also defended the title, beating Bermudez in their rematch, winning a unanimous decision. Meinke has also previously won the European female featherweight title by defeating Lucy Sedlakova in 2018. Other titles include the WIBF featherweight title, IBF Intercontinental featherweight title, and WBC Youth super featherweight title. Just from scrolling down Instagram in passing, I knew that Nina was recovering from something, but I had no idea how severe it was and how that might incapacitate her for the foreseeable future. I came across some images, but didn't make much of them until I read this article that she could have lost all use of her right leg. That's serious. This whole time, blubbering about how, now that Amanda Serrano is returning to the featherweight division, perhaps she can reschedule the fight with Nina Meinke that they were supposed to have a little over a year ago, not realizing that Nina is in the midst of a battle of her own that jeopardizes her boxing career, and that in all likelihood she will not be boxing in the foreseeable future, much less participating in any unification matches. Hearing about her health struggles, you wonder, what could Nina Meinke have done to cause that severe compression to her spine? What specifically? What to avoid? Seeing the health challenges and struggles of others makes you wonder about your own health. How to prolong it, and what to avoid, what to stay away from, because Nina's young and she's strong. She's an athlete. What happened? Whatever did is sure to keep her on the sidelines for the foreseeable future, and thus the IBF title may go vacant as a result. It's hard to conjure that the IBF would allow Nina to hang on to that belt if she is physically incapable of defending it. And so the highest ranked contender in the IBF's rank standings right now is Nigeria's own unbeaten up-and-comer Elizabeth Oshoba. That should the title go vacant in the not-so-distant future, it may go to Elizabeth. And I think in light of some of the other fighters that MVP signed, some of the ones that people are a bit more familiar with, they forgot that Elizabeth Oshoba was one among them. MVP signed Elizabeth. So it would seem that the blue belt may go to her, and MVP may have themselves another featherweight champion. As Nina Meinke recovers and rehabilitates herself to regain feeling in that right leg, and hopefully she makes a speedy recovery, but that is the lay of the land at featherweight right now. Nina's not going to be boxing in the foreseeable future. Men's junior middleweight news. On the heels of his latest devastating loss, the question is asked, what's next for Tszyu? Tszyu lost to Sebastian Fundora as the latter retained his WBC junior middleweight title, raising questions over Tim's next steps. Tszyu suffered another loss after his first fight to take their rivalry to 0-2. The narrative heading into the rematch was that Tszyu's cut from the first fight hindered his performance. Prior to the cut, Tszyu was ahead and looking comfortable. Fundora accused Tszyu of making excuses, and the loss will only increase that sentiment. Tszyu could target a rematch with IBF junior middleweight champion Bakhram Murtazaliev to try and avenge his other loss. Murtazaliev knocked out Tszyu, dropping him several times to give him the second loss of his career. Murtazaliev has not boxed since that win, which took place in October of last year. Now may be the best time to take that rematch. What? Tszyu may also pursue a fight with the WBC interim champion Virgil Ortiz. The latter is undefeated with a 23-0 record. 21 of his wins have come by way of knockout. He defeated Sergey Boachuk and Israel Madrimov in his last two fights, respectively. The Boachuk performance was not the best, as Ortiz had to get off the canvas to get the win. There was also a perception by some that he had lost the fight. While his O is still intact, Ortiz has lost some of that aura that he once possessed. Equally, there are calls for Tszyu to take a break from the sport. Sean Porter has suggested that he needs time away. Tszyu is 30 years old, entering into what would be his peak years. 2 years out of the sport reduces his activity, while also hindering his ability to stay relevant. That is without the obvious risk of injury, which can hamper any fighter. Porter had this to say, I think he's better than a domestic fighter, but give him some international opponents, get his rankings up again, and then slowly rebuild. Maybe he can take another big shot in a couple of years. I don't think Keith Thurman is there in 2 years. Terrence Crawford isn't there in 2 years. I'm not exactly sure who is there at 154, Porter said. So let me start off by saying that I do not agree with the author of this article. The last thing that Tszyu should do at this point after this loss is target a rematch with Bakhram Murtazaliev. What are you trying to do, get the guy killed? The author of this article, whoever it was because the name is not listed, referred to the oozing blood down Tszyu's face in his first fight with Sebastian. He called that a narrative, that all of that blood impaired his vision. Oh, because you think it didn't? The amount of damage that Tszyu was able to amass on Sebastian Fundora's face in just the first 2 rounds of their initial meeting was indicative that he was well on his way to knocking out Sebastian Fundora before that cut opened. After the cut opened, the guy couldn't see. What's hard to understand about that? That's not a narrative. That is one of the single most overused words in the sport of boxing today. That when you describe the events that took place in a boxing match or something that's going on, people call it a narrative. It's not a narrative that the guy couldn't see because blood was streaming down his face, and that doesn't change because he lost the rematch. I agree with Sean Porter, or at least I used to agree with him, when he said that Tszyu is more than just a domestic level Aussie fighter. Maybe he was, but I don't know if he's more than that now. Not after these beatings, not after these losses. They change you, and not for the better.
I was just thinking about when I first started the sport, what I said was I wanted to get to the very, very top, and I didn't mind crashing or burning on the way up. Sitting here now, we did crash and burn, but we still move forward. Some things go your way, some things don't. What happened last weekend, it didn't go my way, but we still move forward. Sometimes it's who you become in the pursuit of greatness rather than the result itself. And sitting here now, I'm proud to say that I've become a different person on my pursuit of greatness. And to anyone watching, no matter what you do, always find the goal of becoming someone different, of becoming motivated, and it's never going to be easy. It's never going to be easy, but it will all pay off. Appreciate everyone's support. Sorry I couldn't get the victory. He was just a better man, and I'll have to accept that, even though it's hard. But I gave him my all, and yeah, we move on. The goal doesn't change, and yeah, hope you're all well.
Timmy talks about the pursuit of glory and how sometimes there are setbacks and those setbacks can change you, but the changes that he's undergone haven't been changes for the better or changes that are conducive towards his goals. In the Sebastian Fundora fight, the first one, and whatever he experienced in the second, in tandem with what happened in between with Bakram Murtazaliev, maybe in some other fields and some other experiences, setbacks can be learning experiences, but the kind of setbacks that he's suffered are not conducive towards his goals as a boxer. It all takes something away from you, the beatings that you take, even in the fights that you win, let alone the fights that you lose, and now he's lost 3. And don't take it out of context. I'm not saying that because a guy lost, he can't come again. I'm saying that the kind of beatings that he took, the beatings. Lots of boxers suffer losses, but not all losses are created equal. Some you can bounce back from, some others, not so much. He's putting on a brave face. What I think comes from not wanting to admit that you messed up. It's not as simple as losing a fight to Sebastian. It's having a fight that didn't need to happen because you were too focused on other things, making an impression on the Americans and making it big in America when you already had an adoring public. The first red flag was having a box office fighter in Australia fly halfway around the world to America to go box at the Armory against Terrell Gachet. This is tantamount to having Derek Chisora fly to America to box a journeyman at the Beacon Theater in New York. Why would you do that if you fight in front of bigger crowds in your own neck of the woods? And remember that this entire thing with Tszyu and the PBC was a byproduct of Tim's pursuit of a Jermell Charlo fight that they never delivered on. That's the second red flag. The moment that Tszyu realized that he was never going to get that Jermell Charlo fight because Jermell opted to leave the division to move up to go box Canelo, that should have ended his time at the PBC right then and there. And I point to his time at the PBC because that's what set these events in motion. That's what led him here. None of this ever had to happen. I remember it all. That they were planning for Timmy's fight, when he was still unbeaten, to land in Vegas alongside a big Aussie rugby event. They were expecting a lot of Aussies to be in town, and they wanted to line up Tim's fight with that event. That ended up getting delayed because the PBC failed to get him an opponent, failed to get him Erickson Lubin. Lubin becomes Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman becomes Sebastian Fundora on short notice, and all the while I'm thinking, these guys are just wasting his time. So focused on making it in America, Tim's wide-eyed optimism and naivety didn't let him see the forest through the trees. These guys are just using you. Now where you are, they have no use for you. You lost your belt. Some would say that you lost your spark and your punch resistance along with it. Maybe at some point Tim did have all the makings of a world-class fighter. I think he did, but I don't think he has all those makings anymore. And rehabilitating him, you can try, but he may never go back to being the same confident fighter that he once was, the same capable fighter. Some things, when you lose them, you don't get them back. All of which is a byproduct of placing more emphasis on boxing in front of an American audience than a domestic one. There are some British fighters that draw very well all on their own that you wouldn't be able to get Josh Warrington on a plane to fly to America to box at the Armory or some shoebox in Florida like what the PBC did with Tszyu last year, but he let it happen. He allowed himself to be taken advantage of. Now he's but a cautionary tale of how to not go about things, and hopefully his younger brother Nikita, who campaigns as a middleweight, can learn from his older brother's mistakes, because Tim was on the pinnacle. He was at the cusp. He was almost there. but in some ways he screwed it up for himself. They failed to get you the Charlo fight that you were supposed to get. They failed to get you a Lubin fight. They delayed your schedule, delayed your plans. Call a spade a spade. They set you up. And the Sebastian Fundora rematch only really came back around because they thought that you were more beatable than someone else. They only used you to avoid someone else. They used you, Timmy. And there is no nice way for me to say that.
You know, I wish Anthony all the best of luck. But Anthony, listen to me. Don't take a dive with this Jake Paul, mate. Do not do that, not for $1 billion, my pal. Don't do it. Don't do as the others have done. Do not take dives. If he fights, you knock him dead as a nit. And good luck with it.
Tyson says he's going to bet £1 million on Jake Paul knocking out Joshua.
This is what I'm saying. How's that work?
He can't, can he?
Anthony Joshua could knock Jake Paul out with his dick. So if it goes any other way, you know.
You give me a headline there, by the way.
If it goes any other way, you know it's fucking fixed, don't you? Enough said.
So Big John Fury has weighed in on what's supposed to be Jake Paul's next outing, a potential fight with Anthony Joshua. Anyone from Eddie Hearn to Turkey LL Sheik has entertained the possibility of this matchup happening, something that I struggle with, for the same reason as John Fury, that if anything other than Anthony Joshua violently knocking out Jake Paul happens in a match between them, it would have to be because it's all staged. The contest is rigged. The fights are fixed, because there is absolutely no reason to believe that a novice social media influencer has what it takes to go the distance with an Olympic gold medalist and a two-time unified champion who's not so old, not so past it. It would have to be fixed. It would have to be. I struggle to think that Jake Paul could even win a round against Anthony Joshua, much less make it out of the first. That Anthony stops this kid as soon as he wants to. That's the same reason I question whether or not it will even happen, because Jake Paul is a lot of things, but stupid is not one among them. And Anthony Joshua is a lot of things, but strapped for cash is not one among them. The lure of a big boxing payday may be enough to draw out retired MMA fighters that are past their prime, and some boxers, retired MMA fighters that are just not used to making that kind of money, and one or two boxers that are obviously past their prime, and they don't mind doing the waltz with Jake for a few bucks. But Anthony doesn't need a few bucks. He's got plenty. Enough that I don't think he would sell his soul and throw a fight with Jake Paul, that if he signs on, it's to knock him out. It would have to be. I don't even have anything against Jake Paul, to be honest with you. I don't take issue with him more than I take issue with guys like Rolly and Mario Barrios having alphabet titles. That bothers me more than anything Jake Paul is doing. Though if I am to address the potentiality of an Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul fight just based on boxing math, there's absolutely no reason to believe that Anthony doesn't knock him out, unless it's rigged. And I don't think Anthony would sign up for that. He doesn't need to. Not even for the money. He's got plenty of it. Fights with Anthony Joshua, face-offs with Alexander Usyk, it all makes headlines and grabs attention. And it's all part of Jake's modus operandi. His bottom line, to keep his name out there, ruffling feathers, and staying relevant. So I don't actually expect him to do it. To box Anthony Joshua in a real fight, a for real fight. No, because he'd be signing his own death warrant.